When I went to school at Taliesin and became an apprentice of Frank Lloyd Wright, we talked a little bit about laws, and he was quite respectful of Adolf Loos. But he said, he kind of grunted, and he said, "I don't know why you uncle started all this Bauhaus stuff." But the fact is that Loos was really an enemy of the Bauhaus. He hated the Bauhaus. And he did his own thing, but his style was without ornament. And the Bauhaus style was the international European style of that time, and it was without ornament also. And so he kind of put that together as being part of the Bauhaus. In Milwaukee, he was shown around when he was visiting there. He was there to give a talk at the university. And they were showing him around one of the new buildings, and somebody had enough courage to ask him, "Mr. Wright, what do you think of the building?" So he thought for a minute, and then he said, "Well, you know, you ought to dynamite it." That was his answer. There's a story, one of his clients called up, and she had a new house that he designed, and you know, she's in this house, and it started raining, and you know, the roof was leaking. And so she rushes over to the phone, and she picks it up, and she calls Mr. Wright. "Mr. Wright, Mr. Wright, my roof is leaking right over the piano. It's ruining my piano." And so Mr. Wright's remark to that was, "Well, move the piano." I spent a whole summer plastering the eaves and the soffits under the house because they'd all deteriorated. And I was a good plasterer because I'd done some cement finishing in my time. And before I knew it, I had 3 guys working for me, and they were mixing the plaster, and of course I was putting it on. I was doing the final plaster. He was known to go along with a hammer and destroy the plaster if it wasn't good. And he would just knock it apart, you know, take a hammer and knock it apart. Well, he never did that to me. He did like my plastering. When Steve, my dad, was visiting Taliesin, they were very nice and gave him a room in the house. We had an interview with Mr. and Mrs. Wright one morning, and Mr. Wright said to Steve, he said, "He's a good plasterer. We're going to make a good architect out of him." And I thought that was kind of cute because I never said a word. Steve was very comfortable and started expounding about his travels in Egypt and in the Far East, and it was kind of unusual to have somebody visit the Wrights and have not Mr. Wright expound, but Steve Schanzer expound. And I thought that was very cute, and I think he was a little taken aback by Steve being so forthright. And I mean, you know, he was treated like God most of the time, and Steve was very comfortable. I was quite uncomfortable. I just sat there and sweated.